Well, welcome to the Fields. It's great to see you guys today as we are kicking off a new teaching series called All the Fields. My name's Courtney, one of the pastors here. And we did want to let you know, as Brady just mentioned in the video, that next week is reopening Sunday for our in-person services. And so here at the Mattoon location, we'll do 9 and 10:45 Sunday morning. And then Charleston will be 5 p.m. at Charleston Community Church, which is just directly across the street from Walmart. And so we will be designing and creating touchless services for you and for your families to be able to attend together as our team and our dream teamers have been preparing and researching the best way to be able to put in services that are safe and comfortable for everyone. So we are excited that we'll be able to join together again to be able to worship. And so that is next Sunday. We do have limited capacity, so you'll want to go ahead and grab tickets. You can go to thefields.church to be able to reserve your seats for those services. So today we are kicking off a new series called All the Fields, as we're diving into what emotions are, what emotions mean. And when I think about emotions, I think about what do we do with our emotions? What do we need to process? How do they all fit together? And when we control our emotions, it's a wonderful thing. But when we don't control our emotions, it becomes a disaster. And so that's what we want to talk about today is how do we control those? How are we supposed to use those healthy? What does that look like? And so we all experience our emotions very high, and then sometimes they're very low, and we all have frustrations, and we all have our ups, and we have our downs. And what we want to do is to look at and understand that life, when we dive in our emotions, that life doesn't just happen on the outside, but we realize that life also happens on the inside, and that there's emotions inside of us. And you may today, as you're hearing about, we're talking about emotions, you may be thinking, oh man, I wish such and such was watching this and listening to this today also. And maybe you're texting them, letting them know, hey, there's a video right for you about what you're dealing with. But especially with our emotions, I was trying to look into and dive into it, and one of the movies that Disney came out with really just talks all about emotions. And it's a movie called Inside Out, about this young girl who has these 5 emotions inside of her that kind of lead and run her life. And so they have these 5 characters that are lined up with these 5 emotions. And I wanted to show you a short clip about that movie.
Here we go. All right, open.
This looks new.
Think it's safe?
What is it?
Okay, caution. There is a dangerous smell, people. Hold on, what is that?
This is disgust. She basically keeps Riley from being poisoned, physically and socially.
That is not brightly colored or shaped like a dinosaur. Hold on, guys. It's broccoli! Yucky! Well, I just saved our lives. Yeah, you're welcome.
Riley, if you don't eat your dinner, you're not going to get any dessert.
Wait, did he just say we couldn't have dessert?
That's anger. He cares very deeply about things being fair.
So that's how you want to play it, old man? No dessert? Oh, sure. We'll eat our dinner right after you eat this.
Riley, here comes an airplane.
Oh, airplane. We got an airplane, everybody.
It's always the airplane that gets you. That's always the fallback. But today what we want to do is to dive into the emotion of anger. And so anger is this strong feeling of annoyance, a displeasure, even like a hostility towards something. And so there's 2 ways that that people deal with anger. The first way is like a skunk. And so what that is just like the explode. Like it explodes all over the place. Once somebody has anger, it's just like they all over, and everybody that is near them at all like experiences this exploding of a skunk all over them. And so I was even like this week asking my wife, I was like, hey, is there a time, can you lay out for me like a time that I've done that skunk? And so I'm not the skunk in this approach. And I don't know if you're the skunk in this. You're like, hey, I'm in the skunk. But she did line out, hey, there was this one time that you've had. And I was like, okay, tell me what this is. And she goes, well, when you were in kindergarten. I'm like, okay. And so the story of kindergarten was, we're out at recess. I don't know if it's like lunch recess or a different recess or what, but we were outside, and on the playground was just our kindergarten class. And we were playing a game called Foursquare. And so I don't know if you've ever played the game of Foursquare, but it's on the concrete. There's actually 4 squares, okay? There's 4 squares, and you have a ball. There's one person in each square, and you have a ball that you're bouncing back and forth. And if you can't hit the ball out of your square, then you're out. And so there was a line of us kindergartners. And so when somebody got out, a new person came up, and they got into the game. Well, there was this girl, and I remember this girl that rode my bus, actually, we were in line, and she actually cut in front of line in me. And somehow, I don't know why, as a 5-year-old kindergarten boy, but this anger grew up inside of me, and this skunk came out. And so I tapped her on the shoulder after she cut in line. She turns around, and I'm like, right hook, just right in the face. The skunk came out. She went crying, ran off. I stepped forward back in line. She ran off. I didn't think anything about it. 10 minutes later, her and the nurse come outside to get me. And they're like, the principal wants to see you. So here I am, a 5-year-old, kindergarten. I'm sitting in the principal's office because I allowed this skunk to explode over everybody. So I don't have a lot of skunk type situations. But what I have, the second way, is how somebody deals with it, is a turtle. And so what a turtle does is a turtle hides. Right? A turtle calms up. A turtle puts their head into the shell. The turtle doesn't talk to anybody. The turtle doesn't, react to anybody. And so who's the skunks? Do we have any skunks? I'm looking at dream teamers that are here today. Any skunk? We've got some skunk. What about the turtles? Any turtles? Yep, turtles won't even lift their hands. So there's skunks and there's turtles. And guess what? That's one of 2 ways is how you're going to deal with anger. 99% of the time, I'm the turtle. And I asked my wife this week ago, how do you know if I'm angry? Or she goes, because you're a turtle and you don't talk to anybody. And if I walk by, you don't do the traditional husband love pat. She goes, it's gone. And so I'm like, okay. So you have to decide, it doesn't matter. There's 2 ways that you deal with anger, is a turtle or a skunk. But they're both dangerous, and they're both equally devastating. And so both of them are wrong, and both of them don't lead to something good. 60% of murders actually happen because of a disagreement between 2 people that know each other that's based out of anger. And so look at what Proverbs 29:22 says this. An angry person starts fights, right? A hot-tempered person commits all kinds of sin. And so this angry person is the one that starts these fights, commits all these different types of sins. So what are the ways that we're tempted with solving anger these ways? There's several different ways. The first way is that you have your way. If you have anger and you're trying to solve it, you're like, okay, I'm going to have it my way. I'm going to be the bully in the family. I'm going to tell the kids what to do. I'm going to tell my spouse what to do. I'm in charge. I'm the bully. Think about if you're driving on the interstate and somebody cuts in front of you. What do you do in this situation? You want to have I'm going to teach them. So you shift it in gear, pull in front of them, and guess what you do? You cut them off. What I like to do to antagonize people, if they're tailgating me really close, do you know what I do? I let off the gas. I slow down just to make it more hot and more steamed. But that's one of the ways, we have to get our way. We're going to win. I'm not going to lose. And that's one of the ways that we're tempted to solve anger is we're not going to lose. The second way is that they have their way. Fine, you can have your way. You can have your way. It doesn't matter. I don't care. You can have your way. And we pull back, we roll over, we play dead. It's like the peace at all costs, right? Okay, whatever, you can have your way. The third way that we try to solve it is the compromise. Okay, 50-50, we'll do half of what you want to do, we'll do half of what I want to do. But the problem is none of these are healthy. None of these work. None of these are the right way. So I think about anger, the first thing that we have to do with anger is to figure out, where is the anger coming from? What's the root of it? Where is it at? Why is it there? What's really cool is there's a guy in the Bible called James. And so James is the half-brother of Jesus. And so if you have any brothers, the cool thing that James's brother Jesus did was Jesus convinced his brother that he was the Son of God. Now, I don't know about you. I have two brothers, and I've not convinced them of one thing. Yet somehow Jesus was able to convince James that he was the Son of God. And I think if he can convince his brother that he's the Son of God, that I can believe that Jesus is also the Son of God, because I know how hard it is to convince a brother of anything. And so what I want to do as us today is to lean into what James says about his brother Jesus and about this whole situation of anger. So in James chapter 4, it outlines this, and the first verse says this: what is causing the quarrels and fights among you? That's his question. What is causing this anger? And so think about it. When you have anger, immediately, like, what is causing? You're like, he is. He's the cause of it. She is. She's the cause of it. They are. They're the little ones running around like they're the cause of it. It's his toys or it's her friends, and we're immediately like it's somebody else is the cause of the anger. So who's the cause of this? So when we try to solve something, we're quickly trying to find blame for somebody else, and we're trying to fault somebody else for our anger. And so that's just immediately what we try to do. Even if it's true that it is somebody else's fault, it never leads us to happiness. Like we've been around people that always blame everybody else for something. It's not like they're happy. They're not happy at all. They just continue to blame other people, and they never get better themselves because they just blame people. James continues on. He says, don't they come from the evil desires at war within you? He doesn't say at war with the other person, but don't they come from the war within you? That's interesting. So he's saying it's not the traffic that's the problem. It's not the weather. It's not the government. It's not your spouse. It doesn't come from your circumstances, he says, but the anger comes from where? Within you. So it's not any of those things. Like, we know people that get upset about everything. That's why, because it's not based on the circumstances, it's based on them. It's based on the anger inside of them. This last week, as I kind of been diving into this, and I was even thinking about, when have I gotten angry? And I thought about this as of all the fights that I've gotten into, whether it was the fist fight I got into with Brian in the school playground over basketball in 6th grade, or when I punched Allison in the nose, or all the different fights that I've gotten into, the word fights as an adult, is I've realized there was one common denominator in all of those fights. Do you know what the common denominator was? Me. I was in every one of those fights. It was me. So that's what James is saying, is like the war is within inside of you. I was the common denominator. He continues on. James in the second verse says this: we want what you do, you want what you don't have. So you scheme and kill to get it. You are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it. So you fight and wage war to take it away from them. I want peace and quiet. I've spent a lot of money on this house not to have that neighbor's dog bark all day long. I deserve this lane. I was in this lane first. I saw construction coming up ahead. I already had moved over. What gives you the right 15 feet before construction to cut in front of me? I deserve this lane. I'd have the right to have a good marriage. And then you come in and all of a sudden you want to start messing that up. And so the root is that you want something, but you're not getting it. You want what you don't have. I want this. I can't get this. That's the root of it. Then what we do is we demand somebody else to change so that we can get what we want. I can't get this. You need to change so that I can get what I want. Do you see the pattern here? It's not about us. It's about, I need to change you to get you to do what I want you to do so I can get what I want. But I can't if you're in the way, and so I need you to change. You have to change. This is my lane. You have to put the dog away. This is my house. And so the root is something that we want that we can't get. We want it our way. The problem is life isn't Burger King. You don't get everything your way. And when you don't get something that you want, what happens? We get angry. That's what James says, is that's what it is. That's the root, is we want something that we don't have, and we try to change people to do what we want them to do. That's the root of our anger. Isn't James going a little far there with you kill till you get it? I don't know. Have you ever had you're in a fight with somebody, you're angry with somebody, and you've said things about them inside of your own heart? Or you have rehearsed lines about the next time I see them, I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that, I'm going to say this. So inside of our own hearts, are we not doing what James said, is that we're going to kill until we get it? It's a heart issue. We think that the solution to achieving happiness is to get people to behave the way that we want them to. So the root of anger is we want to have it our way. So let's look at a solution. So what's the solution for it? When that person did this, when they said that, when they acted that way, instead of going to them and demanding them to change, the solution is we go to God instead. James continues in the second verse. He says, yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. So when we're in a fight with somebody, when we get angry, we immediately go to that other person because we want to fix them. But James is saying, no, you've got it wrong. Like, the solution to your anger is to go to God, not to that person that you're upset with, not the person that you're fighting with. You don't go to them, you go to God. At the moment of frustration, what we need to do is we pump the brakes, we slow down, we back up, and we go to God. And we ask if there is something that we should do instead of asking them or demanding them to do something. We look at ourselves and say, okay, God, what am I supposed to do? What do I need to do in this situation? Not them. Even though they might have been the ones that cut you off, you're frustrated with their dog, you're frustrated with what your spouse does, your kids does. Instead of going to them, no. He's saying, you go to God. It's not about them at all. The anger isn't about them. The anger is about you and what's inside of you, so come to me. Instead of going to them about your frustration, your anger, what's inside of you, you come to God and you allow God to work it out inside of you. It's not them, it's us. So the root is we want to have it our way. The solution is to take it to God. The solution isn't with them, the solution is with us. Because here's the reality, is the person that you're living with has issues. And you have issues, and for some reason, the two of you with issues decided to make mini-me's that are going to have issues also. And so now you've got all these people running around your house that have issues. And so check this out, is we want to change our circumstances, but God wants to change us. And so that's the viewpoint. Instead of looking, how can I change this circumstance? This is making me frustrated. This is making me angry. How can God, how can I change this situation, this circumstance? Instead, think about, God, how can I change me? How do you want to change me? And so there's a very hard prayer in Psalms 123 that talks all about this of, God, how can I change me? And it says this, search me, O God, and know my heart. Man, what a hard prayer. God, search me. God, you know my heart already. Search inside of me. What's inside of there? What's hiding in those creases? What's hiding in those crevices? What is deep down that nobody else knows about? God, search me. Know my heart. Test me. And know my anxious thoughts. God, you know what I'm frustrated about. God, you know what I'm angry about. God, you know what makes me mad, that really makes me bubble up inside. God, search inside of my heart. Search me. Point out anything in me that offends you. God, show me. What is it that I'm thinking or that I'm doing that offends you, that goes against you? What is deep down inside of, why am I angry about this? Why am I angry about this person cutting me off? It's probably not even about that person cutting me off, but what is it? God, search me, know me, what's inside of me? And lead me along the path of everlasting life. If anger would have been so easy to fix, you would have fixed it already yourself. But it's not. It takes somebody to say, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm done. I'm putting it to the side. I'm not going to live this way any longer. I'm going to let God do the work inside of me. I'm done trying to fix the other person that I'm mad about. Instead, I'm going to ask him to fix me. There's this story in the book of Matthew where Jesus is explaining to his followers about him getting ready to die. And he's laying it out. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to come and they're going to arrest me and they're going to put me on the cross and I'm going to die on the cross. And his disciples are like, no, that's not going to happen. And then there's a famous story of Peter, and Peter says, God, that I will never let this happen. And Jesus says, you know what, Peter, get out of my way. You don't have the things of God in mind. You just have the things of you in mind. You're not thinking with a godly perspective. You're just thinking with your own perspective. And the story continues in Matthew, and it says this, and it says, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross, and follow me. So that's the solution to our anger, is to give up our life. In order to solve your real problems, the solution isn't solving the problem itself, but allowing God to work in us. So when you have a problem with an emotion, it's not trying to figure that out and say, okay, how can I fix this situation? But it's going to God and saying, God, how can you do this work inside of me? What is this work that you need to do? So how do we do this? So the root cause is there's something inside of us with this anger. The solution is to go to God. How do we do this? And he says it here, deny yourself. It's not about following after what you want. It's about following after what I want. Are you asking me to be a punching bag that at any time I can just pull back and say, no, you can do whatever you want. I'm not going to fight against this. No, not at all. Are you asking me to be the victim? No, not at all. In order to find real peace, what he's saying is you have to look inside of yourself. Whoever wants to save his life has to lose it. Whoever loses their life in me, in Christ, will actually find it. So Jesus say, if you buy into my plan, if you're willing to let me do the work, then you'll be the happiest person that you'll ever know. So how do we do this? Galatians 2:20 outlines how we do this. My old self has been crucified, he said, with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. So I live in this earthly body by trusting in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. So this is how we do it. Is first we crucify ourselves, saying, God, I come to you every single day. Every single day you wake up, you say, you know what, God, I'm not following after my path. I'm following after yours. It's not me that's living any longer, but it's you living inside of me. I lay down my desires. I lay down my wants. I lay down the things that I want to do, and I'm following after you, not my desires and what I think is great. I want to follow what you think is great. The second part is that you crucify your flesh, because every one of us was born with this sinful nature inside of us. Every one of us has this desire inside of us to do things that are bad, to do things that are evil, to do things that are against God. It's just part of us, and we have a tendency to blow it. Now, we may not blow it in hundreds of areas, but we probably blow it in one or two areas on a consistent basis. And so what we have to do daily is, I think, isolate those and come to God and say, you know what, God, search me, look inside. You know these areas. What's the one or two areas every day that I'm dealing with? And come to him and say, you know what, God, you know I'm going to deal with this today. Help me. Just isolate those areas ahead of time. Ask him. Come to him. Isolate those areas. Because if you want to find life, you have to lose it. And then you'll find it. So if you want to find life, you've got to lose it for his sake. And then you'll find life. So the root of all of our anger is that we want something that we don't have. And the solution is to give up our life. How do we do it? Every day coming to him. Every day saying, you know what, God, it's not me that lives, but it's you. It's that one, Psalms 123 prayer. God, search me. Know me. Trust me. Why am I acting this way? Why am I getting angry about this situation? What is inside of me that's needing to change? Let's go ahead and pray together. God, we pray today that we give you permission. We give you permission to search inside of our souls. We want to pray the Psalms 123 prayer, God. Search me. Know inside of me what's hiding deep around the corners that nobody has looked at before, God. What's inside of there that I need to hand over to you, God? God, today I pray to crucify myself, God, that it's not me living any longer, but it's you. I come to you, God. Today, I isolate those areas that I'm going to struggle with. God, you know what those are. I hand them over to you, God, and I pray that the next time I come up and I feel this anger inside, that I would be able to shift and I'd be able to not think about trying to fix the problem, but to look at me instead of looking inside, God, what do I need to do? Search into our hearts today, God, and show me those one or two areas that I'm needing to continue to give over to you, God. In your name, amen. Today, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, and you're the one that's controlling your own life, and you're seeing that your life is messed up, today what you need to do is where we talked about that if you lose your life in Him, giving Him your life, not following after your own path, but following after His path, you'll actually find your life. And so today what we want to do is you can just make that simple prayer commitment to say, you know what, Jesus, I haven't been following your path. I've been choosing my own ways. I've been following and doing what I want to do. But today I want to jump off of my path and jump onto yours. And what I want to do is to challenge you to pray this simple prayer of commitment. God, today I recognize I need you in my life. Forgive me for following what I want to do. Change me. Come into my life. I want to follow you every single day. In your name.